The moment you make your ex your mission, you lose your power. That's the game. That's the pattern. The more you chase, the more your energy says need. The more your energy says need, the more an avoidant person feels pressure. And the more pressure they feel, the more distance they create. So if you came here wanting the magic text, the clever trick, the one move that makes an avoidant ex miss you like crazy, here's the truth. It is not the text. It is not the tactic. It is not the performance. It is the shift. Listen, the shift is when you stop trying to get chosen and start choosing yourself so deeply that your whole emotional state changes. Because people do not just respond to your words. They respond to your state. They respond to the meaning underneath the words. They respond to whether your presence feels like freedom or pressure, peace or demand, self-respect or silent panic. And if you don't understand that, you'll keep repeating the pattern and calling it love. You want to know why an avoidant ex pulls away even when they still care. Because closeness for them can feel like loss of control. Intimacy can feel like obligation. Love can feel like being cornered. So when you come in with more messages, more explanations, more just tell me how you feel, more emotional insistence, you think you are fighting for connection. They experience it as the walls closing in. Same moment, different meaning, and that matters. We don't live life as it is. We live life as we interpret it. Two people can stand in the same conversation and walk away with two different realities. One thinks, I'm showing how much I care. The other thinks, I'm being swallowed whole. One thinks, I'm fighting for us. The other thinks, I can't breathe. So what's the real battle here? It's not male versus female. It's not who loved more versus who loved less. It's nervous system versus nervous system. It's fear versus fear. It's longing versus protection. And if you don't see that, you'll make their withdrawal mean something poisonous about you. Now let me be honest with you. That's where most people get destroyed. Not by the breakup itself, by the meaning they attach to it. They don't just lose the person. They lose their center. They don't just miss the relationship. They begin negotiating with their own worth. And once your worth gets tied to someone else's distance, you are no longer in love. You are in survival. That's the part nobody wants to admit. You're checking the phone, replaying the last conversation, reading old messages like they're sacred text, watching the timestamp, watching the story view, watching for a sign, a symbol, a crack in the silence. And every little thing becomes loaded. If they post, it means something. If they don't post, it means something. If they watch your story too fast, it means something. If they don't watch it all, it means something. Your mind becomes a meaning-making machine. And when you are hurt, that machine is dangerous. Because pain does not make you stupid. It makes you selective. You start noticing only what confirms the fear. You delete all the evidence of your own value. You distort neutral things into rejection. You focus on what is missing versus what is real. And what is real is this. If you are trying to make someone miss you while abandoning yourself, even if they come back, you still lose. Let me say that again. Even if they come back, if you had to betray yourself to get there, you still lose. So what is the one thing that makes an avoidant ex miss you? It's your absence, yes, but not just physical absence. Emotional non-chasing, energetic withdrawal of neediness, the end of pressure, the end of trying to control what they feel. The moment you stop knocking on a locked door and start building a life so real, so full, so grounded, that your presence is no longer a request for reassurance. It becomes a memory of peace. It becomes space they can feel. It becomes contrast. That's the shift. It's not manipulation, it's alignment. See, most people here pull back, and they turn it into a tactic. They say, okay, I'll disappear for 5 days, post a gym selfie, put up a quote, make them jealous, then they'll miss me. No, that's still chasing. It's just chasing in costume. The pattern is the same. The story is the same. The energy is the same. You are still centering your whole emotional life around what they might think. That is not power. That is dependence with better lighting. And I know I'm right about this because I've watched human beings do this in 1,000 different forms. Relationships change. The technology changes. The psychology doesn't. The strongest force in a human life is the need to make familiar pain feel solved. So if you grew up feeling unseen, you may choose someone emotionally unavailable and call it chemistry. If you grew up earning love by overgiving, you may chase harder the colder they get and call it devotion. If love and anxiety got wired together early, calm can feel boring and uncertainty can feel profound. It's not romance, it's repetition. But here's the thing, what repeats can be interrupted. What was conditioned can be retrained. What you learned in survival does not have to become your identity. And the first place it changes is not in the relationship. It changes in your state. There are 3 decisions you make in every moment of your life. And if you understand these 3 decisions, you stop bleeding your power into somebody else's avoidance. The first decision is what you're going to focus on. The second decision is what meaning you give to what you're focusing on. The third decision is what you're going to do because of that meaning. And most people make all 3 unconsciously. They focus on the silence. They make it mean I'm not enough. Then they act from that meaning and reach out, over-explain, collapse, beg, perform, or spiral. But if you change the first decision, you can change the second. And if you change the second, you transform the third. Focus is not a small thing. Focus is the gateway. Focus is the lens. Focus determines your emotional state, and your emotional state determines your behavior, and your behavior shapes your destiny. That is why 2 people can go through heartbreak and one gets wiser while the other gets smaller. So what should you focus on? Not what they're doing, what you're becoming, not whether they miss you, whether you miss yourself, not whether they are confused, whether you are clear, not how to get a response, how to get your center back. Again, that's the work. And I know for some of you listening, that sounds almost insulting because you think, no, you don't understand. I really love this person. I know. I'm not mocking your pain. I'm honoring it enough to tell you the truth. Love does not disappear because someone is avoidant. Attachment does not shut off because a relationship became unhealthy. Your body can still crave what your soul knows is costing you. That's real. But craving is not wisdom. Intensity is not compatibility. And missing someone is not always a sign to return. Sometimes it is just evidence that you are detoxing from a pattern. That's hard to hear, but freedom usually is. I remember when I was younger, a lot of my fuel came from pain. Anger can give you energy. Rejection can give you energy. Being underestimated can light a fire in you. But that kind of fuel burns hot and dirty. It gets you moving, but it doesn't always get you free. At some point, the fuel has to change. At some point, you stop asking, how do I prove my value to the person who couldn't hold it, and start asking, how do I build a life where my value is no longer up for negotiation? That question changes everything, because now the game is not getting them back. The game is getting you back. And paradoxically, that is exactly when people feel you differently. Because when you stop trying to pull someone toward you, your energy changes from grasping to grounded. When you stop trying to force closeness, your presence becomes cleaner. There is no demand in it. There is no hidden invoice in it. You are not saying, come here so I can feel us okay. You are saying, I am becoming okay, and from that place I can love without collapsing. That is rare. That is attractive. That is what creates missing. Think about it like this. If you want to take the island, you burn the boats. Not because you hate the boats. Because as long as retreat is easy, commitment is shallow. And some of you are trying to heal while keeping 10 little emotional boats sitting on the shore. The emergency text, the fake accidental message, the late-night social media post meant for one pair of eyes, the mutual friend update, the checking, the waiting, the mental rehearsing. Those are boats. And every boat says the same thing. I am not fully committed to my own freedom yet. Burn them, not out of bitterness, out of dignity. Now what does that mean to you? It means you stop doing anything that turns your healing into a performance for your ex. If the workout is for them, it will collapse. If the glow up is for them, it will become resentment. If the silence is just a strategy to provoke them, your nervous system will still be chained to the outcome. But if the workout is because you want your strength back, if the quiet is because peace is becoming non-negotiable, if the boundaries are because your heart deserves a new environment, now you are changing at the level of identity. That's different. It's not image, it's integration. It's not revenge, it's restoration. It's not acting detached, it's becoming whole. And let me tell you something else people miss. Avoidant people often feel safest when there is space. So when you stop flooding the space, they finally have room to feel. Not always, not every time, no guarantees. But often, yes. Because now they are no longer reacting to your pursuit. They are left alone with the contrast between your former availability and your present absence. They are left with their own thoughts, their own memories, their own unfinished emotions. Your silence stops being emptiness and starts becoming a mirror. That's why chasing usually fails. It gives them something to push against. Space removes the object to resist. Now listen to me carefully. This does not mean you become cold. It does not mean you play games. It does not mean you punish. The point is not to make another human suffer so you can feel powerful. The point is to stop participating in a cycle that is making both of you smaller. There is a difference between cruelty and clarity. There is a difference between withdrawal and self-respect. There is a difference between forcing distance and accepting reality. And if you learn those differences, your whole life changes, not just this breakup. Because here is the bigger truth. The relationship was never just about the relationship. It was about your patterns. It was about what you tolerate. It was about what you call love. It was about the emotional rules you learned long before this person arrived. They just activated them. So what's behind the obsession? Usually not just them. It's the story. The story that this was your one shot. The story that losing them means losing your future. The story that if they wanted you fully, it would finally prove you are enough. But no one can sustainably give you what you refuse to build inside. They can reflect it. They can support it. They cannot create it for you. That job is yours. And for some of you, this is where the tears come. Not because you lost them. Because you realize how long you have been abandoning yourself in the name of being loved. I want you to breathe with that. Because if you suffered early, if you felt unseen, if you had to become hyper-aware of other people's moods just to feel safe, you may still be carrying that child into your adult relationships. You may still be handing that child the phone and letting that child interpret the silence. And that child will always panic. That child will always personalize distance. That child will always want to perform to be kept. But you are not only that child anymore. You are also the adult who survived. You are also the one who can now look back and tell the truth. Maybe the fact that nobody came running when you were hurting taught you how to stand on your own feet. Maybe the fact that you were misunderstood made you perceptive. Maybe the fact that love felt inconsistent gave you a radar for what is real. Maybe the loneliness you hated became the training ground for self-sufficiency. Maybe the nights you thought were proof you were unwanted were actually building the muscles that would one day let you walk away from what does not honor you. The wound was real. I'm not romanticizing it, but the meaning is not fixed. And when you meet the younger version of you with the strength of who you are now, what once looked like pure damage can begin to reveal hidden equipment. That is how healing works. Not by pretending it didn't hurt, by refusing to let the hurt have the final interpretation. You want to know what makes someone miss you? It is not your pleading. It is your absence infused with self-respect. It is the memory of your warmth without the availability they took for granted. It is the realization that you are no longer spinning your propeller trying to keep the relationship airborne all by yourself. It's like an aircraft with one engine screaming and one engine dead. You can keep fighting that thing for a while. You can grip the controls, sweat, overcorrect. Tell yourself if you just pull harder it will stabilize. But if the system is structurally failing, effort alone doesn't save you. Sometimes wisdom is landing the plane. Sometimes wisdom is admitting that constant turbulence is not passion. It is dysfunction. And the moment you stop calling chaos connection, you become dangerous in the best possible way. Because now you can choose. And choice is power. So let me give you the drill. Not tomorrow, in the next 24 hours. This is non-negotiable if you really want your power back. Take 90 seconds. That's it. 90 seconds. Get out a note on your phone or a piece of paper and answer these 3 lines without editing. What have I been chasing? What has that chase cost me? Who do I become when I stop? Then read your answers out loud. Not in your head, out loud. Because when language leaves the body as sound, it hits differently. You hear the distortion. You hear the truth. You hear how much energy has been tied to a door that may never open the way you need it to. Then make one clean decision. 1. Mute the thread. Delete the draft. Unfollow the checking behavior. Put the late night trigger somewhere you cannot reach it automatically. Tell one friend, not 10, what your boundary is so you stop crowdsourcing your nervous system. Small ritual. Massive consequence. A tiny action can become a new identity when it is repeated with meaning. That's how people change, not all at once, at the level of pattern. Now, some of you are thinking, but what if I stop and they never come back? Then you will finally meet reality. And reality, even when it stings, is cleaner than fantasy. Fantasy keeps you on a leash. Reality gives you a direction. If they come back only when you disappear, that tells you something. If they come back but cannot meet you in a healthier way, that tells you something. If they do not come back at all, that tells you something. Information is power when you stop fighting to make it say what you wanted. It's not rejection, it's revelation. And yes, sometimes when you truly let go, they do feel it. Sometimes the avoidant ex who could not settle while you were available suddenly begins to remember your steadiness, your care, your laughter, your safety. Sometimes your absence becomes louder than your pursuit ever was, but that cannot be the reason you heal. Because if the outcome is still the God, you are still worshiping the same pain. Heal because your peace matters. Heal because your future relationships matter. Heal because your body should not have to keep paying for love with stress. Heal because you, my friend, deserve a love that does not require you to disappear in order to keep it alive. And let me add this, because it matters. Missing you is not the same as being ready for you. That distinction will save years of your life. Someone can miss your energy, miss your tenderness, miss your loyalty, miss the way you made them feel seen, and still not have the capacity, the skill, the courage, or the emotional competence to build something healthy with you. Do not confuse longing with leadership. Do not confuse chemistry with character. Do not confuse their return with your answer. Wishing for reunion without real change is just self-deception. That's the trap. It's like watching an elite shooter on a basketball court and envying the shot while ignoring the repetitions. Everybody wants the smooth release. Nobody wants the lonely mornings. Nobody wants the thousands and thousands of ordinary reps that built the result. The same is true emotionally. People want confidence in love, they want calm, they want boundaries, they want standards. But they do not want the repetitions that build them. The uncomfortable pause before reaching out, the honest journal entry, the decision to sit with the ache instead of sedating it with contact, the moment you let the wave pass without obeying it. Those are reps, and they matter. You can fool the internet. You cannot fool your nervous system. Competence first, confidence second. And there's a progression here. First, you are unconsciously trapped in the pattern. Then you become conscious of it, and suddenly everything feels worse because now you can see it. Then you practice a better response, and it feels mechanical, awkward, unnatural. Then one day the calm becomes natural. The boundary becomes normal. The self-respect becomes your default instead of your effort. That is emotional mastery, not perfection. Practice. So if you are in that clumsy middle right now, good. That means you are no longer asleep. It means you are leaving the old identity without fully trusting the new one yet. Stay there. That's where real change is born. But that's not the real point. The real point is not how to make an avoidant ex miss you. The real point is becoming someone who no longer needs to shrink, chase, decode, perform, or abandon themselves to feel connected. Because when you become that person, your whole world changes. The people who can only love you from a distance lose their spell. The people who are ready for depth can finally recognize you. Your standards rise. Your peace rises. Your discernment rises. You stop confusing emotional unavailability with mystery. You stop calling instability passion. You stop giving your life to people who only know how to value you after they lose access. That is a different life, and I believe this. At some point, every one of us has to decide whether pain will be our identity or our teacher, whether rejection will become our prison or our refinement, whether we will keep asking why they couldn't love us the way we needed, or start asking why we kept volunteering for less than what our heart was asking for. That question is not punishment. It is freedom. Because once you ask it honestly, you get your power back from the past. And when your power comes back, your energy changes. And when your energy changes, your choices change. And when your choices change, your future changes. That's how this works. You do not have to become icy. You do not have to become hard. You do not have to become somebody else. You just have to become unavailable for what breaks your own spirit. You have to make peace a rule. You have to make dignity a rule. You have to make self-trust a rule. Those are foundations. Those are the immutables. And once those become non-negotiable, everything else gets simpler. So if your avoidant ex misses you, fine. If they don't, fine, that is not the center anymore. The center is this. You are learning to stand in your own life without begging to be chosen. You are learning that love without safety is not enough. You are learning that your heart is not a courtroom where somebody else gets to render the final verdict on your worth. You are learning that the most attractive force on earth is a human being who has suffered, learned, softened, and still refuses to abandon themselves. That person has gravity. That person has peace. That person does not need to chase. And if the day comes when they circle back, if the message shows up, if the old energy reaches towards you again, you will not meet it as the same person. You will meet it with eyes open. You will meet it with a stronger nervous system. You will meet it with standards. You will meet it with the ability to ask, not just do they miss me, but can they meet me? Can they hold closeness? Can they tell the truth? Can they repair? Can they stay? Can they love in a way that does not make me betray myself? Now you're asking the right questions. Now the pattern is broken. Now the future can change. You don't become powerful when they finally choose you. You become powerful when you stop leaving yourself behind while waiting. And you owe it to you to become that person.